Welcome to the GreenLight Investor for the week ending April 2nd, 2015. This video is for informational purposes only and should not be taken as personalized investment advice. I'll be using a number of examples and spreadsheets throughout this presentation. And again, those are just meant for educational purposes only and not meant to be taken as personalized investment advice. This week we're going to start out with just a little bit different twist. Let's look at a long-term indicator that I've used since 2000, and it showed us different turning points in the markets. What we're going to focus on this afternoon is the blue line. I use this as a long-term indicator as to whether or not it's a healthy time to be in stocks or whether it's a better time to be more cautious. This is a monthly chart, and it starts out in 2004 and goes up through our current time frame. And what we're looking at, whenever the blue line is above the red line, it's generally a pretty good time to be in stocks. We've seen here when the blue line crosses below the red line, it's generally a good time to be a little bit more cautious with stocks or move to the sidelines. Here again we had a positive crossover where the blue line was above, and it's generally a good time to be in the stocks during this period. And then we saw just a short period when the signal said to go ahead and move to the sidelines or be cautious. In 2012 we started a real nice run, and we've been on that run since until 2015, and we're currently seeing a crossover signal, which we don't see often, so when we see it, it's worth noting and paying attention to. So that said, let's go ahead and move into our presentation. And here's our spreadsheet that we update every week. It's broken into three different parts. One is the investment choices, where we list the 401k selections that you have. It's broken down into different sections, starting with our core investments, which are the index funds. We'll then move into our satellite funds, which are broken into different categories of fixed income, U.S. growth and income, our U.S. equity funds, our international funds, and our sector funds. You'll see then the second section, which is right here in the center. It's our performance data. We update that each week, and we'll look at the closing prices for the week ending April 2nd, the month-to-date prices, which we just started, and we've just started our second quarter, so we'll have the return there, as well as the 2015 year-to-date performance numbers. These are good to look at on a periodic basis just to see how your investments and your investment selections are performing relative to other investments in the category as well as other categories. And finally, we'll take a quick look at our current weekly trends, which I think is the most important part of this chart. We used green lights to show generally bullish or positive moving mutual funds, and we use the red lights to show the negative, generally moving downward, the bearish funds. And just by following these signals, I'll show you a quick and easy way to manage your 401k portfolio. Let's go ahead and see how quick and easy it is to do this assessment each week. Just take a few minutes. When you pull up this spreadsheet that's updated each week, you go to Views, Custom Views, and then just My Allocation. My Allocation will have been pre-populated for your own personal asset allocation. And once you have that pulled up, we'll have that already populated with your current investment choices. And to see how they're doing, you simply pull the slider over to where column E is showing. And the most important trends are the long-term trends in column U, and the relative strength trend scores for the week in column W. We'll want to see green lights for both of those. So down column H, we see the current investment choices we have and the percentage allocated to each of the funds. And by sliding the slider over to column U, V, and W, we can see that our initial index selection is bullish and bullish with a bright green light, so there's nothing to be done there. The money market will always stay yellow, so there's nothing to be done there. We have a 10% allocation to it. We have a 5% allocation to our fixed income, and again, we see a bullish light here and a bullish light, so that's a good choice to be in if you want to stay in your allocations. And any of the ones that are red on both sides are ones that you tend to be out of, or at least be very cautious knowing that the trend is downward in those. The growth and income funds, we see a green light and a green light, so there's nothing to do in that again. We have a 30% allocation to U.S. equities, and as we scroll down the spreadsheet, we'll see that we have a bullish with a green light, and we have a bullish signal with a green light. So again, there's nothing to do in this. Usually there's not, as you've seen by that long-term chart. You're in or out of the market for extended periods. And finally, let's go to our international funds, which shows a 30% allocation. And the fund that we're in, we have a 20% allocation. It's still bullish, and it's bullish to the right side of column V. And our 10% allocation is bullish and confirmed with a green light to the right. And I'm sorry, there's still one more section. That's our sector funds. We have a 10% allocation. And that shows that we're still bullish and bullish. And there's 1, 2, and 3 different funds that you could be in. All of them would be just fine. You could do different research and find the ones that are appropriate for you based on your risk tolerance and your time that you're expecting to be in the markets. That's really all there is to reviewing your 401k each week and making sure you're staying in the strongest funds, or at least not staying in negative performing or bearish funds for any extended period of time. Let's go ahead and go back to our worksheet, and I want to show you just one more feature before we wrap it up for the week. Let's show it with our performance numbers. We'll go back to show, and here's our view for the week. We have on the columns, we have one of the features that shows the short-term trend, the intermediate trend, and then the long-term trend. The long-term trend is the one that's most important. That's the one that you're going to use as a signal to be in or out of each of the funds. The short-term trend is simply a flag that shows that it's showing short-term weakness, and if that moves into intermediate and eventually long-term, you'll have had signals ahead of time, warning signs that there's something going on, and you may want to take action before or at least when you see the signal change on the long-term trend column. That's really important. So let's scroll down and see how the markets are doing. Here the short-term trend is generally green and yellow, generally green in the intermediate term, and then the long term is a little bit mixed, so we would be watching to see which direction that's going to go, if that's going to turn bullish again or stay kind of choppy. On the right side, we've seen that this has been in a negative trend, and so that confirms that it's a relatively weak market. There's not a lot of upside potential at this point. At least the market hasn't been moving in that direction. And this side shows that it hasn't been moving strong in the down direction at this point. When we go to the U.S. growth and income, we see that the short-term trend is generally red or yellow, so that's showing that the short-term trend is weakening. And if we look at the numbers, we can look and see if these start to weaken. Once these confirm that weakness, we'll be looking for red lights to populate this intermediate term. And when they start to show up in the long-term trend as being negative, that's again when you want to be paying attention and make sure that you reallocate your funds appropriately. Let's go down. We're seeing the same sort of scenario in the U.S. equities where the short term is showing a negative. And we're seeing just a few of the columns turn red in the relative strength. But if we start to see more of these turn red and the intermediate term starts to turn red, then you'll certainly want to be paying attention as the longer term changes color guards. And finally, on the international funds, we'll look for the same sort of signals. If the short term turns red, followed by the intermediate and confirmed by the green and red cells to the right of column V, we'll want to be paying attention to those signals. as well as in the sector funds. We're still seeing weakness, so general stock weakness, which goes along with this chart here that I showed just a minute ago, which is showing that the market has been going sideways for a period of time. And this is the signal that I wanted to highlight this week, that we're showing that the blue line is below the red line, which generally is market weakness. As an investor, you never know how long any of the trends will last or how strong they'll be. So it's important to pay attention to each signal when you get it. And when this turns positive, we'll be going back into stocks and playing the markets to the positive side. That's what I have for the week. I want to thank you very much for taking the time on this shortened week, and hope you all have a good Friday as well as an Easter weekend. If you have any questions, you can always reach me at the GreenLightInvestor.org or jweixner at greenlightinvestor.org with email questions, and I'd be happy to go over this so that I can answer any of your specific personalized questions. Thank you again for watching.